Hello readers, I'm Amy and today I'm going to be talking about books that I want to reread. I saw this recently on Hillary's channel from Melted Books and I believe she got this idea from Breakeven Books, so I'll do a little searching. I'll include the links below if there's an original that I need to be aware of, but I made sure that the books that I want to reread that I picked out are books that I have not previously reread, because there's a lot of books that I love, a lot of books I want to reread and that I have reread. These ones I haven't read a second time, but I really want to, and I want to do more rereads next year. I've read a lot of new books in 2020, and I want to get back to some of the greats that I just haven't taken time to revisit. There are some people who cannot stand to reread a book. I am not one of those. I can reread the same book practically all year. Let's start with On Chesil Beach. Ian McEwan, for the most part, has really been a hit with me, and On Chesil Beach was one of those really interesting ones where you have a very small time span over the length of this book. And On Chesil Beach is exploring the honeymoon night of these two newlyweds who have different pasts and different kind of ideas of the wedding night. One of them is coming from a very traumatic background, and it's really interesting to see that play out because you have this one person who's really, really excited for the wedding night and to share their lives together, and the other one's like, I don't want this to happen. I'm terrified. I don't know what's going on. I've got all this trauma surrounding sex, and I'm not looking forward to this honeymoon. And the whole book takes place over like one night and 2 days, and I loved it. And I really want to read this book again. Next book that I want to reread is The Radium Girls. Recently on Twitter, they had that game of what books do you associate with me? And Victoria, from What Victoria Read, said The Radium Girls, which I'm really happy that she associates that book with me. Apparently I'm the reason she picked it up. I love this book. This is a chunker of a nonfiction, but it reads like a novel. So it starts out with like this young woman walks out into the sunshine and feels it on her face and she's happy and she's going to this new job. Like, it's very descriptive in that novel-esque way. So it was a really easy read. It's during, I always forget which war it is, World War I, where these women are working with radium to make radium watches for the soldiers, and they don't realize that radium is bad for you. And even after they realize it, they don't legally realize it because this is happening to women and no one cares if women are hurt. And it was infuriating, but it was also awesome. And apparently The Radium Girls is actually a play, which I think would be really interesting to watch. I don't watch a lot of plays. I like plays, I just haven't seen a ton of them, but this is definitely one that would be on my watch list. Next, I can't believe I haven't reread this because I adored it so much the first time I read it. Caitlin Doughty's The Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. This is her memoir about working in a crematory from page 1. I was so in love with this book. It was hilarious. It was relatable. Yes, it's about a crematory and it's still relatable. And if I had any room on my October reading list, which I might make room like I usually do, I would totally reread this in a second. I can't believe I haven't reread it yet because it's probably my most want to reread book that I have on my shelf. I love Caitlin Doughty. If you haven't seen her videos, please check those out. She makes death so interesting and digestible and easier to face, and she discusses the different cultures around death, and it's amazing. Next one is Post-Grad. I actually got this around the time that I was graduating with my first degree in psychology, where I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. And Post-Grad is about 5 women and their first year out of college. And I'm like, that looks like something that I need to pick up and read right now. I need something that can comfort me and can give me different perspectives on what happens after college and help me feel better about it and know that I don't have to go right out of college knowing everything and understanding everything and being a perfect little worker bee. Like, it's okay to be confused. And this book definitely made me feel better. It's like a sociological study of these 5 women and exploring their lives and their work after they graduate, and it's a really digestible nonfiction. Really enjoyed it. I don't know that Carolyn Kitchener has written any other books, but I'd be interested to check that out and see if she's done anything else. Next, I'll give you The Sun. You're not usually going to find a ton of YA books on my reading list, but I read this one last year. It was recommended by a kid that I worked with at the time, and I loved this. It's very heavy on the metaphors. I will say that. Like flowery metaphor heavy, which is not to everyone's taste. However, with this book focusing on artwork, I think it worked really well. We are following two separate timelines for two separate characters. They are twins. The first timeline is from one twin when he's like 13, and then the second timeline is from the other twin when she's 16. And it's kind of showing what has happened throughout their lives and how they became kind of separated from one another. Not physically separated, but they used to be very close, and now they like don't want anything to do with each other. And you're exploring why, and it talks a lot about art in a very beautiful way that just made me want to go out there and create something. So I think the metaphors really worked well for this book. If you're into multiple timelines and multiple characters like I am, definitely recommend picking this up. Last book that I want to reread is The Flicker of Old Dreams. This is my first Susan Henderson book. I picked it up at a local bookstore that has very rarely led me wrong with my book purchases. I think there's only one book that I got from there that I didn't love. All of the others have really just made it onto favorites lists. This one, again, we're going with the death theme here. We are following an embalmer who lives in a small town. She wants a little more out of life. She's not sure where her life is headed. She doesn't necessarily enjoy being an embalmer. And I love the small town vibes. I love the discussion of death. We're also looking at the brother of someone who died when she was a kid and how that brother is really looked down on and blamed for the death, even though it's not really on him, and no one bothered to look more into that. They're just like, oh, you're related to the dead person, so it's all your fault. Kind of typical petty small town stuff. And I loved that. If you're into small town books, if, again, you want to explore a book that talks a little bit about death, then go for it. Yes, death is a morbid topic, but it's gotten very interesting for me since I've started reading Caitlin Doughty. So, these are the books that I want to reread. I really hope you pick up one or all of these because they're all pretty equally amazing. That is it from me. Please like, subscribe, be my friend on social media. I will see all of you in my next video. Bye, friends.